Welcome, Billy Eichner.
Hey,
to
guys.
Pod Save America.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm a huge fan.
Great
Thank
to
you
have
for
you here.
having me. Yeah, I listen all the time. Not every episode. but
Once in a
most.
while, though.
When I
Enough
can-
to sort of get by.
When I can squeeze it in. But I'm very upset that Jon Lovett is not here. So,
He is very upset as well.
oh, is he?
He didn't say that, but I think he's probably mad that this was scheduled.
How
while he's
dare Jon Lovett not be here? Doesn't he know who I am?
not here.
I invented loud gay Jews who love to hear themselves talk. Okay? Show a little respect, Lovett. Love it or leave it, and he left. What does that say about me?
He is busy with his solo career right now.
Yeah, the
He's-
spin-off.
Yeah,
Already
the
there's a spin-off.
There's a
We
spin-off.
call him Bay here. You
Bay.
know, it's like he's got his
Yeah.
own thing.
You guys are the Kelly Rowland
Yeah.
of Pod Saves America.
Look, it hurts,
She was
but-
in Destiny's Child, guys. I know. You're
Was that a
Destiny's
thing?
Child. Yes.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
Cool.
They were a band.
They were a band. They were my favorite
They were
band.
girl band
Yeah,
for a
my
while.
favorite band.
Tell us about Glam Up The Midterms.
So I started a voter initiative campaign called Glam Up The Midterms with my friends at Funny or Die, Will Ferrell and Adam McKay's company. They've been producing my show, Billy on the Street, for many years. I'm very close with those guys. And I called them up. Trump had said something, God knows why. I can't even remember what it was because there's so much every day, but 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So I called Funny or Die, which has a history of doing politically oriented initiatives like this, like they did with Obamacare and Between Two Ferns. And I had done a Billy on the Street video with Michelle Obama a few years ago. And so I said, let's do something, but I am just sick of angry tweeting all the time. And it doesn't feel like the most productive thing, even though I'll keep doing it.
We all will.
Right. How could you not?
make a living off
It's
of
right,
it.
exactly.
Spent 2
And
hours
it's
doing it last
cathartic.
night.
And I actually think angry tweeting can be productive in its own way. But I wanted to do something that had a tangible effect. And then we got all these statistics in, which said that in the last midterm election, only 12% of millennials voted in 2014.
Dismal.
Right? Which is very bleak. But then I thought, before I just get sort of self-righteous about that, I thought to myself, I'm in my late 30s. I am more than willing to admit that I have skipped a midterm or two in my day. And maybe you guys haven't.
I think we all have.
No, I think we all have. at
Right,
some
we
point.
all have, right? I mean, 12%. We're all skipping the midterm. And the percentages aren't that much better as you get older,
Right.
But for millennials, it's particularly bad. And I know millennials probably don't want to be called millennials, but I'm sorry, that's just what you are at this point. And so I said, okay, that's a dismal, bleak statistic. What can we do
Right.
to register voters, knowing there's a midterm coming up, and knowing now, compared to 2 years ago, there is so much outrage and so much anger, and people want to be productive. But I thought, how do we focus this anger? Voting. Let's vote. There's a midterm coming up in November. Let's get out there and register as many voters as we can. And, we're in comedy, we're in entertainment, so we thought, what's a funny take on that? So I thought, well, there's nothing less glamorous than the midterm elections, right? There's nothing more exciting or nothing less exciting or sexy sounding than the midterm. So let's turn that on its ear and let's glam up the midterms. And all that means is we're going to go out. We've pinpointed several districts and we're in the middle of fundraising, and we're going to actually go. Yes, there will be viral videos. We did a launch video with Kimmel and John Oliver and Seth Meyers and all these guys just to get the idea of the campaign out there. But one of the most exciting parts of the campaign is that we're going to go to districts where there are going to be hotly contested races coming up, and we're going to be signing up young voters. It's a bipartisan campaign. I'm Billy Eichner. I'm not bipartisan, but the campaign is bipartisan. We're not looking for Democrats or Republicans to sign up. We're just looking for young people to sign up in general. And also, while signing them up, give them information. As you guys know, like the midterms, it's different in every state. It's different in every district. The average person may not even know which races are going on in their state, who the candidates are, what the issues are.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be giving them this information, sometimes in a very dry, informative way, and sometimes in our own fun, entertaining way. And that's the general idea of it.
But you're just going to sign up Democrats, right?
Well, yeah, obviously. No, I'm just kidding. No, I swear that we are not. It is a bipartisan effort. I don't know how many Republicans listen to this podcast? But
listenership.
yeah, exactly. So no, it is a bipartisan effort. And look, I can be political in my own way on social media and advocate for certain candidates that I support. But Glam Up The Midterms is a bipartisan effort.
Cool.
It is about getting people to vote. And, well, do you want to ask me questions or I can keep going?
Tommy, do you have a question?
I mean, I think this is such a good idea because registering to vote, it shouldn't be hard, but like there's friction to prevent people from doing it, right?
Exactly.
So that's critical. But you look at those numbers, like 88% of young people took a pass on voting to decide if Obamacare is repealed, to confirm Trump's Supreme Court justices, whether Trump will be impeached maybe one day, hopefully. How do we convince young people not just to register, but that the stakes in these elections and these off-year elections are just as big as presidential years?
Right. Well, that's tricky. I do think young people, like we're seeing in Florida, obviously, but all over the country, and even before this most recent shooting, young people are more engaged now than they have been. I would imagine it certainly looks like that. So what I wanted to do is go out there and try to capitalize on that interest and passion and say, oh, you're interested in this now? Great. Here's what you have to do. There's a midterm election coming up. The media doesn't give a ton of attention to midterm elections. It's very easy to get involved in the presidential race. There's two candidates we're focused on nationally. Everyone is laser focused on those two. And the whole country is focused on the same race, more or less. The midterms are different everywhere you go. And so, not every race in every state will bubble up and become something that CNN or Vice or, you guys will be able to focus on. There's just simply too many candidates and too many races. And so we want to go out there and do our part and let people know, young and old, hey, you're fired up now? Great. Beyond just being fired up, there's a big election coming up, and it's not Trump versus Hillary, so you haven't heard as much about it, but we're giving you information. Here are the dates. Here's how you register. Here's information that can help you decide who you want to vote for, and just go fucking do it.
Are we going to see little Billy on the street, you like running around yelling at millennials?
Well, you have to pay me a lot to do that, John. I mean, I'm still an actor.
Trademark.
No. We're gonna do whatever. We're gonna do whatever makes sense. So, what I don't want it to be is, I'm not gonna we're not going to go to Pennsylvania and just randomly drag the cast of Grey's Anatomy there. I know that people just don't want random Hollywood folks showing up and telling them to vote. There's nothing more irritating than that. So what we're going to do is...
So Katy Perry concerts.
What was that?
So Katy Perry concerts.
I blame Katy Perry for everything that happened in the last election. No, I mean, I do think, look, I'm someone with a platform, right? And I'm engaged and I'm angry. So I've been shouting at people on the street for years about bullshit, pop culture bullshit. So now I want to shout at people about something that is actually important, that can actually affect our lives. But beyond that, another part of the Glam Up campaign that I love is that we're actually in these districts going to be pinpointing local heroes, right? Local celebrities, whether it's, high school athletes, kids who have a big platform on their college campus, the local bartender who people just love. And we want to engage the hometown heroes and sort of empower them to use their voice. No matter how many Twitter followers you have or don't have, those people have influence in that district. And then we want them to help us let people know that the election's coming up.
So you were obviously born to be the lead in
what, The King and I?
Hollywood.
I mean, what are you talking about?
In this effort. But you have an amazing supporting cast here, right? You have James Corden, Sarah Silverman, Seth Meyers, Conan, Kimmel, John Oliver, Rob. How do they get these folks to go to their district? How can people listening be like, come to my district, rally voters, register voters?
Well, I mean, that's on me, really. I mean, when we made the launch video, I reached out to all those people you just mentioned personally, and I said, hey, we're doing this campaign. Here's what it is. I have a platform. You guys have an even bigger platform. Will you help us out? And that's what we're going to keep doing. We're going to go district by district and say, hey, what do we think will be effective in this district? I don't think it's about dragging James Corden around wherever he's willing to go. As lovely as James Corden is, he'll come, he'll sing a song, he'll do a dance, loves to entertain. But it's not about that. We want to do things that we think the people in that district will actually respond to and care about. Now, that might be someone who happens to be famous, who has a personal connection to that district, coming and talking to people and helping rally people. Or, like I said, it might be talking to someone local. It might not, it might be putting on like an improv show for young people and also having them register as they walk in the door. There's any number of things you can do. And Glam Up The Midterms is, as you well know, is just one campaign like this that's going on. I know you guys are working with Swing Left. Indivisible's been doing incredible work for like over a year. So on some level, we're piggybacking on those guys, and we want to work together. This is a bipartisan effort, and the ones I just mentioned are not as bipartisan. But, when it comes to just sheer voter registration, we're just doing our part.
Yeah.
So,
I've followed you on Twitter for a long time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
A lot of faves,
big
a lot
deal.
of RTs.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I noticed, you've obviously been much more political since Trump was elected.
Right.
Have you always been interested in politics? Is it something about 2016 that really got you into this? Because, a lot of your tweets are serious about Trump. And
Yeah, well, yeah, I have. I describe myself as someone who's always probably been more interested in current events maybe than the average person. I've always loved what was going on in the world and keeping up with that. But like I said, that did not always translate into me going to vote. As engaged as I was superficially, I wasn't actually taking that step. I wasn't necessarily going to a rally or going to a protest or even just going to the voting booth. Sometimes I did. I wasn't completely out of it. When if it was a big race, sure, I would focus on it the way any other person might. But did I have an interest in what was going on? Yes. I remember hating Giuliani, even after 9/11, because I'm a New Yorker, hating Giuliani, and he was like shutting down art exhibits, and that like made me livid.
You were ahead of the curve then.
Very ahead of the
Seriously.
curve. I'll tell you how ahead of the curve I was. I hated Reagan. I hated Reagan back when it wasn't cool. I was like 8 years old, and I was like, he doesn't mention AIDS, like the gayest little 8-year-old you've ever seen. But so I've always had an interest, but I have never fully sort of, if this makes any sense, capitalized on my own interest to do productive things. And that's what this campaign is about,
Did Trump change that for you?
I think he did. I mean, I think he changed it for so many people.
Yeah.
And now, look, I don't agree with what Susan Sarandon said about Jill Stein back in the day. And yes, I did just bring up Susan Sarandon.
Wow.
But
nodded.
I will say there were people. I don't agree with. Obviously, I was very pro-Hillary and not pro-Jill Stein in any way, shape, or form. But I remember she had.
Billy Eichner comes out in favor of Jill Stein on Pod Save
Jill Stein
America.
got a raw
You know
deal.
what? Breaking news, I'm a Russian bot this whole time. It should have been bot on the street instead of Billy on the street. But I will say there were people who said, you know what, I think electing Trump will force people to rise up out of this like semi-coma that a lot of people have been in. Now, I wish he didn't win. I wish we didn't need him to energize us the way that he has, but he has.
That's right.
You can't deny that he has. So
Yeah.
every cloud, and this is a big motherfucking cloud, but every cloud has a silver lining. I think Al Roker is the first person to ever say that. Wonderful meteorologist. But every cloud has a silver lining, and the silver lining here is that we are waking up. That we were all, not all, a lot of us were very complacent. We thought it was a more tolerant place. We took Obama's victories as a sign that we were progressing. And you know what? We did progress. That was progress. But now we see, oh, shit. Like, you don't just keep progressing. And you can actually step backwards. And so, he has invigorated us. He has energized us. And here we are. So did Trump cause me to want to be more productive and more engaged? Yeah, of course he did, because he's terrifying.
Yeah. So like what happened in Parkland was horrific. The CNN town hall last night had these kids out front asking Marco Rubio the toughest
Fucking
questions.
hate Marco Rubio.
I do too.
Okay, look,
I do
people
too.
saying, like, even some of my friends are on Twitter saying, Marco Rubio gets points for showing up. No, he fucking doesn't.
Literally his
talking
job.
about
For what? For
his
talking
job.
to his constituents? I don't clap for my dentist when he finally agrees to look at my teeth. That's his fucking job, you fucking sweaty little hypocritical weasel. fucking hate that guy. God, how dare he?
That's all we wanted. We've just been attacking Marco Rubio all morning.
And also, Marco Rubio, you're never going to be president.
Never.
The ship has sailed. It sailed a long time ago. So at least try to earn a few points by showing some integrity. But it just shows how lost. Like, they're so lost. Their souls are poisoned, like permanently damaged. Like they're poisonous people.
Yeah.
And so I find those people to be a lost cause. You know?
He's a lost cause. But seeing those kids out there being tougher on him than any journalist has been in like 10 years,
unbelievable,
was amazing. So
yeah.
like, what do you think we should do to keep those kids out front in this and like support them in their message, but make sure that Susan Sarandon and Jill Stein don't hijack what they're trying to do and make
Although
it
that
harder.
would be a great Thelma and Louise reboot. The one we've been waiting for. Poor Gina Davis gets thrown under the bus for no reason. But what was I going to say? We have to show up for them.
Yeah.
What's amazing is they're now showing us the way,
right,
which is incredible. We're supposed to be older and wiser, but, you get jaded as the years go by. And what we're seeing in them is a great lack of jadedness. A great belief that just having integrity and fighting for the right thing is actually enough. Mm-hmm. That putting passion and energy and time and money behind that is enough. And I think we're all out here fighting and shouting on Twitter since Trump got elected, but we're still very jaded. We're still very cynical, and there's something about it that seems very pure. And I think we just have to show up for them in all the ways I just said. Like, I'm going to go to the march on the 24th. I'm going to march with every town. And I'm sure a lot of people will. I'm mainly going to get Amal Clooney's autograph. But beyond that, I think a nice side effect is I'll be marching.
It's great.
But you're right. The smart, cool thing to say on Twitter after a gun massacre is nothing's ever going to change. Everyone's just to be cynical.
Yeah.
And these kids are lacking that cynical bone. And it is so nice to see.
Obama had an incredible tweet this morning. I can imagine, I can't speak for the man, and you guys know him better than I do. But I imagine after Sandy Hook, I've gone and rewatched his speech in the Rose Garden after Congress decided to do nothing after Sandy Hook. Those kids were younger even than the kids in Parkland, right? And he seems bewildered and confused. Like, he seemed at a loss.
He said that was the most disgusted he's ever been in politics.
Right. Exactly. How could you not be at that point?
Yeah.
I just got chills thinking about it, right? And so seeing his tweet this morning, and I don't want to speak for him, but reading between the lines, and if you haven't seen it, he basically was talking about how inspiring these kids in Florida are and how, like I just said, we have to show up for them, and that we're here with them and we will support them. But you can sense even in his tweet a shock that we might be able to make some progress. That they've been encouraging to him, I think, on a real level. Those weren't just words that he was tweeting.
You're right that showing up for them. We got an email yesterday from a father of one of the kids killed in Sandy Hook, and it was a reminder that speaking out for them, showing up for them years later matters. So
yeah,
it's also like we were talking about this earlier. It's so cool watching these students sort of, which is the refrain of Emma Gonzalez's speech, like, we call BS, calling out bullshit on these politicians. And even at the town hall last night,
Rubio's face.
not just being like regular journalists and asking Rubio a question, letting him do his talking points and then move on. They ask these follow-ups and then they keep pressing him, and they just sort of, and the conspiracy theories are out there about the kids, and then they just go on Twitter and they just call them out as bullshit.
They don't even know the rules yet, so they don't have to play by them.
Right.
Yeah.
They're just being honest. And I said to a friend of mine last night, as much shit as we give social media, and Lord knows there are major pros and cons to social media. I wouldn't have a career without YouTube, so I'd like to thank everyone at the wonderful YouTube company for supporting me. But there are major pros and cons to social media. But when I looked at these kids, I thought, my God, how do they have such poise and such self-possession just hours, days after an event which would send some people into their bedrooms for the rest of their lives, right? And you would understand that, right? How do they have such poise and such conviction and such confidence? And I thought, maybe, this is just a theory, you guys, don't at me, but maybe it's because they grew up with social media, seeing kids like themselves on YouTube, that they're the most media savvy generation we've ever had, because they've been inundated with media in the palm of their hands 24/7 since they were young children. So maybe they're not as scared of the camera, and maybe in a way, in this situation at least, that's a good thing.
I think that's right. And like you said, they don't know the rules yet, or they know the rules and they just don't give a shit about them anymore. They don't give a shit about like the political rules that have been in place, or the media rules that have been in place.
Absolutely.
All these people defaulting to arguments about civility drive me crazy. Like, how would you feel if your son mocked a senator on television? Pretty good.
Yeah, I'd be
if
pretty
that
happy
prick
with my son
was
if he
refusing
did
to do
that.
anything about gun massacres.
Civility got thrown out the window a long time ago. Have you seen Fear Factor? I mean, even that was like 10 years ago. Civility. There's no more civility.
So how do people get involved with Glam Up The Midterms? Website?
They can go to glamupthemidterms.com. They can sign up, and we'll send them alerts and all kinds of information. You can also follow Glam Up Midterms on Twitter, or follow me on Twitter at Billy Eichner. I did want to announce that our first trip to a district is going to be to California District 49 in San Diego.
ISA.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
old ISA district.
Old ISA districts. He's not running anymore, that NRA shitbag. And so the seat is open, but what people don't realize, you guys probably realize it because you're the host of Pod Saves America, whatever. But I'm not impressed. Okay, we'll see how the TV show
Neither
works
are we.
out. We'll see how the TV show works out. No. But it's an open seat in District 49.
Right.
We're gonna go there, and California has this somewhat strange rule, which was actually implemented by voters, called Top 2. I'm sure you guys have maybe talked about it, where
We're losing sleep over it.
Yeah, exactly. The top 2 candidates in that district, regardless of party, will move on to the actual election in November. But there's a primary on June 5th, which means that if there are, in theory, there's so much fervor on the Democratic side that there are a lot of Democrats who want to run, but they could end up canceling each other out, and you could end up in November having to decide between 2 Republican candidates, which means people have to get registered not before November, but before the primary in June. Right? And I think you have 15 days prior to June 5th to register to vote. So if you're a Republican who doesn't want to see 2 Democrats running in November, or a Democrat that doesn't want to see 2 Republicans running and have no Democratic option in November in District 49 in California, you've got to register to vote in the primary and then vote in the fucking primary. So we're going to be going down to San Diego registering voters prior to the primary. And so go to glamupthemidterms.com, sign up, meet us in San Diego, get registered, help us register people, and, do something with your fucking lives for once.
Who doesn't love San Diego? Billy, you're going to be in Jon Favreau's remake of The Lion King. How does this compare?
Pod Saves America?
Yeah.
Well, I'd say there was less...
Pod Save America.
Yeah, you're going to make us fucking
damn it.
plural.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pod Save America. All right.
You do it once.
Well, there's less Beyonce in this than there is in The LionKing, which is, of course, a bad thing. But maybe she'll do your show when you're on HBO.
This is good. We're
I
going
don't
to
know that we
confuse
can
her
book.
into doing another Jon Favreau. Thank you, Billy. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very much.
Glam it up.
Thank you for having me. I love the show.
Thank you.
We
Keep
love you.
going.
Billy on the Street is the funniest thing you'll ever watch.
What about my other 4 shows? Did you watch me on American
don't know
Horror
them.
Story? Okay.